Hi everyone, welcome to our daily blog this week where we're taking a little break from the themes of John's Gospel so that we can look at the whole idea of harvest in the Bible. Because we had Harvest Festival on Sunday, we're going to spend this week looking at harvest, going right the way back today to one of the first harvests that is recorded in the book of Exodus, chapter 23, and the instructions that God gave through Moses to the Israelite people. Along with the 10 Commandments, he said this in verse 16 and 17. Celebrate the festival of harvest with the first fruits of the crops you sow in your field, and celebrate the festival of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in your crops from the field. 3 times a year, all the men and women are to appear before the sovereign Lord. And that's it. But that harvest was an important part of the life of those early Israelite communities. 2 out of the 3 great festivals where people made their pilgrimage to Jerusalem in order to make offerings to God were actually to do with harvest. Because in essence, although a nomadic people, i.e. people who wandered around in the time of being in the wilderness, at the end of the day, most of these early Israelite settlers were indeed agricultural people who would have had small homesteads and small holdings, and there would have grown their crops. And perhaps this gives us an insight in a couple of ways into not only the importance of harvest, but to one of the great traditions that we still today celebrate at harvest time, the idea that God's provision comes as gift. We live in a very different world today where we often think that if there's a provision at all, it comes from our own ingenuity and from science. And science is incredibly helpful. Technology is incredibly helpful in helping us to be able to produce food that is good for everyone to eat, and indeed to get the maximum yield out of the land. But ultimately, as we saw in the little video we had yesterday from Rob Waldron, the Rural Affairs Advisor, when he was speaking to his neighbour and colleague, a fellow farmer, effectively farmers, technology and science probably help about 10 to 20% in the growing of crops particularly. Actually, the rest is up to nature and up to God. That's a big thing for us to perhaps get our heads around. We can, in not just farming, but in all manner of our lives, think that we're in charge, we're in control, the masters of our own destiny. But actually, ultimately, we probably can only dictate 20% or so of what we do. What the early Israelite communities perhaps can help us with is that they then saw the rest of that 80% as gift and blessing. And they wanted to share these times of harvest as a way of thanksgiving, not just that they had something to eat, but of their relationship with the living God. Even at time of harvest, they would still take the Sabbath rest because they wanted to see everything as God-centered, and in that way have a living relationship with creation and indeed with the Creator. In some ways today, we seem further away from that than we do close to it. So harvest perhaps is a time to reset things and enable us to glimpse once again this time of thanksgiving, this time of blessing that has been handed down for then thousands of years within the Christian and indeed the Jewish tradition before that. Harvest isn't just a modern invention of we plough the fields and scatter, but actually a way of seeing, a way of living, which is about gift and thanksgiving, about the bounteous provision of God in and through his creation. The festival time was probably associated, that first festival, with the time of Pentecost, 50 days after Passover. And the second we've celebrated only recently, the festival of Sukkot. We mentioned that a couple of days ago in the Sunday service. And both were times of great celebration, times of sharing and times of thanksgiving. So even though this day, as I've just heard the news, there's all sorts of manner of restrictions that are going to be associated with the coronavirus, may we also find something to be thankful for, whether it be creation, whether it be the relationships that we have, whether it be the gifts and talents that we have discovered during this time. Maybe we only play 10 to 20% part in all that we are and all that we do, and the rest comes as gift. So enjoy the rest of the day, and may this harvest time be a blessing to you and indeed to our world. God bless. Bye for now.